Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Joe, aka Joe the Wellness Curator, and this is the Obsidian Mindset Podcast, where we are redefining what wellness means to you. There's so much I want to say. First of all, I can't believe it's almost December. That's first and foremost. Secondly, I just want to give a apology for not dropping an episode when I was supposed to, which was last week. I was supposed to drop this episode about Thanksgiving / holiday dinners before the actual holiday, but partially I had a lot of things going on. Life was lifing. I had to do a little bit of travel for one of my best friend's wedding. It was an amazing experience, and then I would jumped right into Thanksgiving, and then I had to rush back home because my dog Ginger just needed me, and it's been a while. And I'm starting to realize I miss not seeing her face when I'm too far away, too gone, too long. All right, so my bad. I thought I can sneak away with not doing an episode, but then someone was like, "Where was it?" And I was shocked someone realized, but also glad that someone realized, and put another fire in me to make sure I'm being consistent, which I will be. So let's get into it. Today, to be honest, I am sipping on some wine as we go through this list. So originally, let's talk about what my expectation was, because my last episode, the bonus episode, was about expectations and being able to shift. So my last episode, this episode rather, was supposed to be, a quick little checklist of, how to eat properly during the holidays and how to make sure you're keeping on with your goals and things of that nature. And, all that's cool. I think there's a lot of episodes, a lot of writings about this. For me personally, my birthday is at the end of October. So between the end of October and January 1st is just like bam, Thanksgiving, birthday, Thanksgiving, holiday season, Christmas, and it's food, 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 food. So I wanted to kind of talk about like how to, you know, ground yourself and navigate that situation in this time and age so that you still can prioritize wellness and also enjoy yourself, right? Like as you know, if you've been listening for a while, and if you haven't, we're not here to say you shouldn't be eating this, you shouldn't be doing this, because it's not that simple. It's not a matter of saying XYZ needs to be eliminated 100%. You need to put in this thing 100%, and you'll have the perfect recipe, right? There's a lot of testing and trials and tribulations and trying to figure out what works for your body, what timing works for your body, what schedule works for your body, that you need to do to order to navigate this real world. A lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of professionals, a lot of coaches give you this template. And I think I've said this before, and it looks good on paper, right? A lot of things that I write down looks good on paper. Trust me, I have a whole book of ideas that look good on paper. But when it's time for the execution, when it's time to showing it in the real world, that's when the rubber hits the road, right? That's when you really have to think about if it really can be implemented or operationalized in the real world. So I say all that to say, and I think this worked out, and maybe I am being, I want to say Pollyannish, but maybe I'm just seeing the glass half full. But I think it worked out that I didn't do this episode before, because I think this checklist is a lot more than just the eating aspect. Similar to everything we talk about wellness, it's not about the fitness, it's not about the working out, it's not about the food piece alone. There's a total story, there's a total aspect, there is a bigger story that goes on with this holiday season that I think we should dive into as we're going through this checklist. And some things apply to food, some things don't. And just because this is after Thanksgiving doesn't mean one can't be applied to your everyday life. Two can't be applied to the next holiday, which is Christmas coming on right up. And three, I don't remember what three was. But either way, this is what. Oh, three. No, I still don't know what number three was. But anyway, so these are the three things that I want to discuss, or these are the items. There's more than three, but these are the checklist items of what I learned from my first in-person Thanksgiving in 3 years. Some of these I knew, some of these just need to be reiterated to me. A lot of it can be applied to food, but a lot of it can be applied to the environment that you're in an everyday situation. Y'all ready? Let's jump right into it after this little jingle. All right, we are back. So let's jump right into it. So we're going through the checklist of what I learned from my first in-person Thanksgiving in 3 years. These lessons, these gems, these 5 things we're going to talk about can be applied to food. It can be applied to an environment and people. It can be applied to big holidays, such as the next one coming up for Christmas, or it can be applied to any little small event, such as having dinner with a friend. So, what are we going to talk about? First up, know what's coming. Period. So, I remember in college, I was a part of a co-ed business frat, and I actually was involved in intake. And the one thing that I remember always telling the people that I looked after was the 5 P's. So always remember this. I always remember the 5 P's. Poor planning promotes poor performance. I'll say it again. Poor planning promotes poor performance. So it doesn't matter, if you're naturally gifted at something, if you have the strongest willpower, if you're very talented, all those are great. All those are a good baseline, a good foundation. But if you do not plan for, whatever's coming, if you do not practice, if you do not do what you got to do beforehand, the performance is always going to be lacking, or it's just not going to be as good as it could be. So, there are some people that are just naturally good at their craft and they don't need much planning or practice, and their performance is going to be stellar. But for many and most of us, we need to have that planning and practice. So what does that mean for this? So, if you're thinking about your wellness, if you're thinking about, and from a food perspective, let's start there. If wellness, if eating properly, quote unquote, is something that you want to make sure that you're doing during the holiday season, if it's, let's say you have a goal for performance when it comes to wellness, so you want to, whatever that looks like in the gym, if there's a goal for muscle mass, if there's whatever your goal is, if it relates to food, or making sure that you're eating properly, nutritiously, this is where the 5 P's come into practice, right? Just because it's Thanksgiving does not mean that you do not know how to plan beforehand. So what does that mean? You can know what's going to happen. You can know who's bringing what. You can know what you need to eat or not eat beforehand. So it's all about just realizing, okay, boom, this is my plan of action. I'm going to eat before. I'm going to eat a nice healthy meal before. I'm going to go to the gym before, get this nice little lift because I know it's going to come. I'm not going to eat X, Y, Z. I'm going to eat X, Y, and Z. I'm going to leave this. I'm going to bring X. I'm going to pack up X, Y, and Z for later and not eat it there. Right? There's all these little things that you can do. And mind you, I'm not even saying, well, and I technically did say it, but don't eat certain things. But what I'm saying is just have that plan. Just know what you want to do beforehand. Because there are some times, and this actually happened to me, so let me not act like I have it all together, that you don't plan in advance and you just see this wide table full of food and then you just go ham. Pun intended, because I had ham and it was very delicious. Or you have this wide array of food and you fill up this plate to the high heavens, knowing good well that's not how you normally eat a plate of food, right? So it's all about just planning action, knowing what you're going to do. If this is something that you want to focus on, right? This is about being intentional. It doesn't just stop at being intentional about your workouts. It doesn't just stop at being intentional about, whatever. It's also about what you eat. And that also goes for Thanksgiving. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself, but it's just make sure you're being intentional and planning in advance. Now, let's step away from food for a second and talk about the environment/people. This whole checklist, I'm going to do food for a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the people environment, because the people environment are just important to our wellness. Not all of us have a great relationship with friends and family that we go to Thanksgiving with, or there's either tension or the conversation shifts that'll really mess with your mental health. And that's okay, right? It happens. Not that it's okay, but it happens. We're adults. This is life. This is the real world, and it's going to happen. And this is why the 5 P's are also important, right? If I know oh Lord. If I know Aunt Chichi, if I know she's going to be there and she always starts the drama, I now have a plan in action of what to do when she either says something, when she comes around. If it's something where I physically cannot be there, then I'll know that, okay, this is my game plan. This is my plan of action. I'm not saying I'm going to allow that to hinder my experience. Not saying that I'm going to allow that to change how I show up. But it's just saying that I have a plan of action if this happens because I do not want this to ruin the experience. Cool, right? And I think, once again, the reason why intentionality comes in play is because we have to remember, and I think I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we have to remember why we are there, right? To be intentional, why we are there at these holiday dinners. It's not only the food, although, I'm not saying that you can't bust down grandma's sweet potato pie, but we're also there for fellowship and friends and family, right? When it comes to these big holiday dinners, not even being specific to Thanksgiving, but any one of them. And I think it's important to know they shouldn't allow one person or one incident to kind of take away from the whole experience. Once again, I know we're all adults and I know people like to push buttons and, there's history behind a lot of it. But if you take it a step back and know what you're there for and what your intentionality for and how you want to show up, that'll allow you to shift a little bit. Whether that means you have to physically get up and walk, go talk to someone else, stop that conversation midway before it goes into a topic that you don't want to discuss. Those are all fair. If that means after doing your 5 Ps, poor planning promotes poor performance. After doing your 5 Ps and realizing, maybe I shouldn't even go, that is fair too, right? We want to make sure that we are balancing our mental health as well. So that might mean, I'm not going to show up the day of. I'm going to show up the day after because that's when my whole family's there anyway, and the kiki, and we don't have like these extra people. That might be an approach that you want to, right? And as long as you know why you're being very intentional and you communicate that, I don't think anyone can take that from you. Yes, these big holidays are fun. Sometimes they're delicious. You get all this food, you get all this fellowship, but at what cost? Right? I saw a meme saying, actually, I'm not going to go into that meme because it's a little inappropriate, but basically, you deserve wellness in all these aspects. And these family dinners, these big holiday feasts are traditions, but it doesn't mean that you can't create a tradition of your own that is centering yourself and your wellness and your well-being, because you deserve all of those things and more. Boom. All right, so let's go to number 2. Communicate your needs and boundaries in advance. So let's get with the food. If you're vegan, if you're vegetarian, if you're gluten-free, if etc., if you don't eat red meat, if you just don't want carbs, although if you don't know, this is a carb-friendly podcast. We do the carbs. I'm literally drinking carbs right now. If you don't do any of those things, do not be ashamed. Do not feel, I come from a Jamaican household, a traditional Jamaican household. And although, luckily I came from a Jamaican household that had experience with veganism before. My sister was a vegan and her family before I started. So there wasn't that much brouhaha before I did it. But, whatever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you're committing to doing or eating, hold your ground firm and don't feel pressured because, these Caribbeans, I'll just start from Jamaica, they will try to push every button possible and shove the meat or shove whatever, they'll put that on your plate and they'll test your boundaries. Let's just say that, right? But it's about making sure that you're committed and saying it before in advance. Like, we're not trying to play games. Grandma, I'm coming tomorrow. I'm excited to see you. Don't put no smothered pork chops on my plate because I am not going to eat that, right? Just making it firm beforehand and let everyone know that this is something you're about and you're very serious. It's sometimes you'll get these excuses from the family or whoever you're with saying, it's just one time or whatever. And, that is true. And if that's the approach that you want to take, because that's you and your body and your decisions and your intake, fine. But it shouldn't be forced upon you by other people because they think it's something that you need or you want. Cool. All right. So we got the food piece down. So let's talk about the people environment. Same concept. Communicate your needs and boundaries beforehand. And let that, and I'll just add this, and this applies to the food also. Let them be uncomfortable if they need to, right? If you're saying, I don't want to be seated next to this person, or I am, I prefer not to uh, go to the house at this time, or whatever the environment is that makes you feel like you're not being 100% yourself. I think it is okay, strike that. I know it is okay to communicate that to whoever is the host. Because, at the end of the day, it's also the host's responsibility to make sure everyone feels comfortable. If they are being the host, right? And if you are communicating as a sincere and like not in a kiki, funny way of like, I don't want to be next to this person because they're shady and they're dry. But saying I legitimately have a concern because of XYZ, and you don't have to say XYZ sometimes, especially if it's like personal. We can come up with a solution that makes it work, right? I think being open and honest, although it seems trivial and this is a holiday dinner, once again, you deserve to be comfortable at these spaces, because these holiday dinners aren't just about the food. It's about the experience, the fellowship, the family, the friends. And if you're not going to be 100% yourself, if you're not going to feel 100% yourself, why should you be suffering in silence and feeling uncomfortable in your skin in this quote unquote safe space when it's not safe to you, when it's not comfortable to you, while everyone else is kiki and having fun? I think it's important to kind of make sure that we are feeling comfortable. I think we have a tradition. So I don't want to speak for everyone. I'll talk from from the black culture, from a Jamaican perspective. This is a holiday dinner. You have everyone come. You just deal with it, and you just enjoy yourself. And I think it's important that we, especially as we're getting older and we're a new generation, to say, I'm not comfortable with these traditions. I'm not comfortable with XYZ. This has caused me harm, or whatever that might look like, if you're that comfortable to say that, and expressing it beforehand so that we can create a solution that works for everyone. What that means, it doesn't necessarily mean someone's not going to get invited, but you can create environments where everyone feels like they are safe, they are heard, that solutions are being proposed, there's alternatives, right? Doesn't need to be a big hoopla. It doesn't need to be all right, let's have what is it called? What's the word when you sit down together? Intervention. That doesn't mean we need to do all that, but it just might mean, all right, put us on two separate sides of the table, or it just might mean don't. I don't know, whatever that looks like, right? There's ways of doing things that you can communicate your needs and boundaries without it being a big hoopla, but you also want to make sure that you feel safe, heard, and seen. Cool. Food and people environment. Look at we doing both. Third, eat/communicate in advance. All right. So I think I mentioned a little bit in the first part was let's know what's coming. Basically, for me, I know that I tend to eat with my eyes first, and then my stomach will figure it out. So if I see all these delicious foods and plates in front of me, I'm going to put them all on my plate. So what I tend to do, and this also does not only apply to holiday dinners. This applies to when I go grocery shopping. This applies to when I go out to eat with friends and family. This applies to when I go to excursions, or when traveling, or when I go to the airport, whatever it looks like. Whenever there's a slight bit of temptation for me, what I'll tend to do is I'll make sure since I'm in my home and I have control of my food here, I'll try to eat in advance. And then from there, especially if I know I'm going to be eating a lot, or there's going to be a lot of food there, I'll eat in advance. And it might not be a big meal. It might be a nice snack. Sometimes it will be a meal. Depends on what the next occasion is. But that is something I'll do so that I do not overindulge. I know for me, I'll speak for me, I can eat. If you've seen me eat, I can throw down. So I'll try to fill up on the salads. I'll try to fill up on the high fiber things beforehand so that I can feel like I'm eating appropriately when I'm in, either in company or when I'm out. And this kind of goes into PPPPP, 5 Ps. And if you're not at home, or even if you are going to a holiday, know what's on the menu, right? So this is what I do. I usually try to eat in advance, communicate in advance. Similar vibe is just saying, communicate what's going on with you with the host. Again, these big events, yes, we're all cooking. Yes, it's all going down, but there's usually one person responsible as the host. If you're feeling comfortable, letting them know what's going on, the vibe. This is one. Now I'm talking about the people and environment. Let them know what's going on. Any problems? Anything that you want to mention? Should I bring the spinach or should I bring the cornbread? Whatever that looks like, just make sure you're communicating in advance. You do not need to make your holiday dinner the first time you're speaking to someone and you don't have any clue what you're stepping into, right? Just always communicate. This applies to non-holiday dinners. Just communicate. It's a lost art, one that we're all trying to work to and navigate towards. Just communicate in advance and also eat in advance. Good tip. Number 4, don't get overwhelmed. And if you do, have a plan. Which again goes back to number 1 of the 5 P's. Poor planning promotes poor performance. I'm going to keep saying that. Again, poor planning promotes poor performance. So when it comes to the food, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Let me talk for me. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all you're seeing, all you're doing. And if it's not the food itself that's overwhelming you, maybe it's I need to make sure I don't have everything here, right? Or I make sure I'm not overloading my plate or whatever that looks like. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, if it's just if there's a lot of food, if there's a lot of alcohol, if there's whatever you're trying to make sure that you're taking in moderation or you're being responsible or you're being intentional about, if it becomes too much, just have a plan. So for me, I'm very big on, I'm gonna go outside and take a walk. Usually it's not too cold. And recently it's been very warm for November, which I'm a little concerned about, but that's another topic for another day. Just always having a plan, which kind of goes back into, like you said, topic 1 and 2, and I guess 3. Just know what you want to do if case things happen that might be outside your control. It doesn't mean that you have to either blow up, it doesn't mean that you have to shut down, but just making sure you have some backup plans. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna call my best friend. I'm gonna go on FaceTime and hit this person up because they know what I'm going through. I'm gonna hit my therapist up, whatever that looks like, so that you can feel comfortable in the space. Again, these holiday dinners are often times where we can get overwhelmed and with a lot of things going on. It's very easy to be overwhelmed with a lot of emotion. It's not only the food that's there, it's a lot of emotion when it comes to the family dynamics and these conversations. And this might be the time where you want to catch up. I'm like, hey, so Joe, when's the next time when you getting married? When you having kids? Like, these are questions that you might want to say it's none of your business, or you just don't want to have that conversation. So just being able to know what you're going to do when these things come up, whether you want to tackle them head on, or whether you want to just say, I'm not comfortable having that conversation, just always know what you're going to do, have that backup plan ready to go. And if you're not comfortable with any of that, it's always good to have a person, a piece of support, or someone that you can call on for support. I know for me, I'm very big on like handling things myself and kind of going inside and like figuring out or bottling it in. What I've come to realize recently is it's so important to have a support system, whether that's a quick text saying, I'm not feeling this right now, what should I do? Or I'm not feeling this right now, I think I'm about to leave. Or a quick FaceTime saying, I'm just gonna leave the phone on, just be with me for moral support. Whatever that looks like to you, just have that in the back of your head. All right, so that was food, that was people, environment. All right, this is the last one. This is gonna be a semi-short episode. So this last one. Remember why you are there and let that be your guiding light. Intentionality. So again, similar theme that has flowed through the other 4. It's just being intentional. So the food, this part, it comes into play for thinking about overindulging with food or alcohol. So these holiday dinners, like I said, your mima's sweet potato might be banging, right? But doesn't mean you need to necessarily eat the whole pie. That's my perspective. It's about just making sure that you remember that these holidays are not just about food. It's a piece of it that's a part of the tradition, but the tradition is also being with the people that you love, right? And if you realize, okay, I'm here to converse, I'm here to enjoy fellowship, then that is going to help you when you're having those moments of doubt, when you're thinking about doing too much, when you're feeling low, or even when your emotions are getting a little too overwhelmed by, let's say, one person or one event or one occasion, saying, okay, this is the reason why I'm here. Or maybe after assessing why you're there, and this is before you get there, you're saying, or maybe it's while you're there, actually, I don't know why I'm here, right? Maybe if the fellowship and the family piece is not hitting the way it should be, maybe the food is also not hitting the way it should be and is not keeping you there, then I think it's okay to reevaluate why you're there, right? I think that's when you make a smooth exit and saying, you know what, love y'all from afar, and I think I have to go. I feel like I could have inserted a song lyric right there, but I'm gonna choose not to. So I think about just remember why you're there, and I think this applies to literally anything you do in life. Of just remembering why you're there, why you started something. Whether I'm talking about, let's say, this podcast. I know I'm shifting topics a bit, but here we are. When we're talking about the podcast, when you're talking about you going to the gym, when we're talking about why you started writing that book, when you're talking about why you started taking photography classes, whether we're talking about why you started learning French on Duolingo, whatever you're doing, always remember why you started and you're intentional behind it. Because it is sometimes in our darkest moments when we don't feel like it, when life starts lifing and we don't want to do it anymore, it's that first reason, that intentionality, that goal of finishing whatever it is that will get us through to the finish line. That will make us realize, okay, I know it's bad now, but we'll get through it. Or I know it's bad now, but that's not the thing that caused me to start it. What caused me to start it was actually this goal, and this is what I'm seeing now, and this is what I want. So this goes for holiday dinners too. For me, I'm very big on friends, family, and fellowship, and of course the food is popping. But I also want to see my family catch up, and that's honestly something that I realized after not being with family in this extended version for 3 years. The first year it was weird. My brother actually went to our house and did a nice drive by for everyone. He drove by all of our houses and gave us food. So I did have the food piece of it, but it just didn't hit the same, right? It's that family, that connection piece for me that I needed and wanted. And it wasn't until honestly this year and being in it that it really made me realize, I need to appreciate this more. And honestly, it's also through Friendsgivings, right? It's not only, and I think in this age where we're realizing that these communities that we're building extends past family, Friendsgivings be hitting too, right? Creating that community wherever you can, especially during this pandemic, especially through the years that we've been gone through together. You just have to be grateful, right, for the people around you, the people that get you, the people that you are connected and bonded with by blood and not by blood. That we have to be grateful for us still being here. There are millions, literally millions, due to COVID that are not. So it's really important to kind of take that into consideration through these holiday times. And whether that's your family, like I said, or it's just your friend, best friend, someone that you maybe lost connection with that you want to reconnect with, just to say you're grateful, or to say hi, or just to say happy holidays. I think it's important. Yeah. So quite brief, quite a shift in my expectation of what this episode was going to look like. But like my last episode said, your expectations are not a tree; they can move. I'm just and since we're talking about gratitude, I'm just very grateful for everyone that's listening, everyone that supported me throughout this journey. It's been a long process. It's been a long, I guess, I've been doing this for almost 2 years. Although it's not as many episodes as I expected, we've been shifting, learning. I've been bringing people on, bringing people have been supporting me in different ways. We have a lot of things coming. And for this season, I am just so grateful for everything and everyone in my life and where I've come from. It's easy for me to focus on the negatives, which I technically just did just now. But, when I think about the positive pieces of my life, when I think about the things I have done and the places I have been and the people I have been able to touch and support, honestly, there's no comparison, right? Like I not to toot my own, but I've done that. And the more it's funny because we'll talk about we did talk about the episode with Evan, the book, the last book that we read of just remembering your wins. And I think that's something that I want to do a challenge for next year with everyone, is just to start acknowledging your wins more, being grateful for your wins more, practicing gratitude every day. Because it's so easy to get caught up in life. It's so easy to not realize. It's so easy to focus on the things that you're not doing, the things on that you're lacking, that you forget about the small wins, right? Me walking my dog this morning, me I actually got a really nice letter in the mail today. Me being able to, afford certain things and not have to worry about certain things, waking up in a bed, being able to breathe properly without my asthma inhaler today. Like, there's so many things that I could be grateful for. So I just impart that to you. It's just taking a couple seconds to think about what you're grateful for, even right now. And as you go through this checklist, as you go through your holiday dinners, as you go through this holiday season, just remember this is a time for gratitude. It's not just about us. There's a bigger picture out there, a community out there, people that need us, people that are watching us as we go through this journey, because they look up to you, they look up to us, and they love you, and they love us. And they want to see us grow, they want to see us grind, and they want to see us flourish. And I am one of those people that want to see you grow and flourish and thrive and continue to see you pick yourself. So as I like to say, and as we end all the podcasts, thank you for picking you today. Bye, y'all.